Yo, check the mic, 1, 2, Beacon is the name. Lights up the city, ain't playing no games. Joel Simmons and Michael Seville, the vision is clear. Dropping knowledge, conquering all of your fear. Beacon, Beacon, that's the sound of the future. The main hosts are here, they built the whole structure. Community strong, we rise from the ground. The Beacon power up, yeah, time to look up.
What is going on? I got like a reverb in my. What's going on, people? Your host with the most is Community Beacon. It's Friday, April 10th, 2026. Interestingly enough, April 10th, 2026 is my dad's legal birthday. And I separate that. Yeah, I separate that because it's not his actual birthday, and he makes sure. I remember growing up as a kid, if this would pop up that it was April 10th, and I was like, "Listen, you can't have two birthdays. It's hard enough remembering one. Let's figure out which one it is." But his actual birthday is March 15th. They turned in the paperwork April 10th. And so that's the day that they registered him in Jamaica. So that's what he has to use for his entire life. However, his birthday is March 15th, but April 10th will always be a special day in my heart because that's for half of my life. That's what I thought his birthday was. So yeah, shouts out to my dad's legal birthday. Happy birthday again, Pops, for the second time this year. I digress.
What does that do to somebody? Does that mean that you're double the age? So if you turn a year old twice in a year, every year you do 2 years older, right? Is that how that works? Does that make him like 140 or something like that? 120? Like, does that make him 120? How old is he?
That's how Joel Simmons' mind works. Because if you think you're going to get me to answer that question, if you think I'm going to answer that question, we've been doing this for about 5 years now, so I got to catch on at some point. To my co-host, we've been doing this for over 5 years now, so I'm at some point in time I'm going to catch on.
All right, you got me.
Delve into it. Shouts out to hey, brother, co-host for the Community Beacon, Joel Simmons. How are we doing today, brother? What is going on?
Magnificent, bro. Magnificent, man. We're doing good. We're well. I just got back from picking up my son. Brought him out here to the O Lab so that we can go ahead and connect with everybody. I'm in between two windows today. We just moved our table into this other room, trying to understand exactly where we're going to put all the furniture, exactly how it looks before the floors get laid. So it is what it is. I don't have like the best location for the video, but I'm here, man. And I appreciate you stretching time and all of the people out there stretching time with us a little bit so that I can be ready to go.
Yeah, brother. The important part is that you are present, regardless of what it looks like. And to be in this space again, I've already had my first big laugh of the show, so that's awesome. we could shut it off now. You know what I mean? I'm definitely grateful to have you here, guys. And we can jump into it. I know I entitled the show "What Fear Is Actually Doing," and I can preface this by saying this March 30th, and I had to go back and take a look at this group I posted in, and I had the night before, so the morning of March 30th in the morning, while I was sleeping, I had something. I woke up out of my sleep, and then I did what's called the EI, which is an emotional inquiry. It's a audio tape. You just kind of listen to it, and you kind of just like a lot of somatic prompting that you go through as you listen to it. Dude, something I wouldn't quite call it meditation because it's you're actually doing something in this particular exercise, and so a lot of things were coming up, and one of the things that came up was fear. And normally when fear comes up or the word fear comes up, uh, I have developed a propensity just to do it in spite of the fear, right? So now when fear comes up for me and going into emotions, I'll just do it. Like, like fear, scared, or you scared or you fear. I'm like, oh, okay, just it's just something to be done. It's something to be conquered. And I don't know when I exactly developed that, but it's been just that way for me. So I remember a long time ago, or some shows ago, we spoke about confidence, and I think you brought up something about confidence, and I was like, well, when I really went back and thought about that, I was like, well, it's not. I mean, it can come off as confidence, excuse me, but it would be more so like courage is how I think some people would define it, because the fear is identified and you do something in spite of the fear, right? There's no like, if anyone thinks that there's no fear in Mike's heart, that's the furthest thing from the truth. I think we all as human beings have fear come up at some point in time. So anyway, so fear came up during this EI, emotional inquiry, and then it's prompting you to ask different questions. And then another word came up for me, and the word was terrified. And the way that word, and I related to that word terrified, allowed me to actually experience this emotion or this feeling. Because I couldn't tell you the last time that I actually sat in what some people will call fear, right? Like where it's just like, I'm just scared, like what's going to happen next, or, to not move. But then there was a part of me that resonated so tough for me as the word terrified. And what it did was it allowed me to actually sit in it, because what I was doing with the fear was like just skipping over it, like just not even paying attention to it. Like I'm just going in, this is just a part of the the practice. This is a thing that happens. It comes up. When I was able to put the word terrified on there, it actually allowed me to sit into it, right? So and then started really be looking at things that I did, or rather at the time reacted out of fear, certain movements that I made, saying yes to things for fear of missing out, or, you know, not saying I wasn't saying no to much, but the terrorize, but when I can put terrorized in it, instead of actually moving forward, which is actually one of my principles, which is check the temperature, it allows me to actually sit and make a sit with the being of it, and then whatever decision or choice it is that I make, it's not made out of, oh, I can't undo this. I haven't made something too big. So that happened March 30th, and it's April 10th. And then this week it was interesting because I actually got a chance to sit with again, which really allowed things to open up for me, because it was a tumultuous week, and it was really tumultuous from this war, right? Like this whole Iran versus this Iran, Israel, America. We're currently in this climate, and there was a deadline given, which was, I think it was Tuesday at 8 p.m. or Monday at 8 p.m. I forget. But then I really started to notice like how much I was paying attention to this deadline and what would happen if this deadline wasn't met. Not that I thought that I was necessarily in danger, but just like what was going to be happening throughout the world. Like really, there was a lot of empathy for the people that are involved in this um, situation, right? And I normally don't watch the news. I normally don't like really sit in these things. Like once again, I kind of just breeze through it. But it was just, what was this fear? And I'm going back to the word fear because terror, I just needed terror in order for me to register fear. What was this fear allowing me to do? What kind of decisions was I making based on this fear? Whether at this point now that I'm able to recognize it and sit with it, as opposed to kind of just going through it. So that's kind of how I purposed it in some of the thoughts, and of course, this is an open discussion. So
And that's deep right there. There's a lot of things that just kind of like travel through my mind. Like the discussion is based on fear. Uh, are we diving into terror? But then you start to mention these very, very specific things that are going on that your mind is dealing with, dealing with the war that's happening. And we don't really know exactly where it's going to go or what will be the lasting impact of it. Just like we didn't know where the wars prior to now would go or what the lasting impact of those wars would be. It's just something that we don't necessarily understand. Predictors will predict, but at the end of the day, time writes history. And so when I'm thinking about this, it's like, this is really interesting. I mean, we've talked about fear before, and I love the word that you use many episodes ago where you talked about signals. And I think that fear is a great word to be associated with a signal. Like fear is a signal of something, whatever it is. It could be uncertainty. It could be the challenges or not being confident inside of something. It could be the lack of control, a perceived threat. It could be a real or imagined threat. It could be so many different things, right? It can mean that this is a point of growing. There's just so many different things that fear can indicate. And I definitely, just a personal testimony, I've definitely taken a different look and perspective of fear and how I think about it, how I associate fear with my life. Because I'm not a man of fears, but I understand that there is a place for fear, and I've learned that it definitely has showed me when something is quote unquote fearful, that this is a point of reference. I need to stop, think about what is going on, and the biggest thing is I need to identify why I'm starting to have this feeling. And granted, for all of you all out there that may be listening to this conversation, I think about this identification process with all emotions, right? It doesn't matter what the emotion is. If I'm feeling joy, I like to identify it because joy is something that I want to repeat. If I think about love, I like to identify it because love kind of gets, there's like this wonky type of love that just gets mixed up in everything. And before you know it, everything is I love. So when we talk about fear, and I'm listening to what you're saying, it seems like there was a pathway where you started to identify it, but it wasn't until like that terror, which is an extreme level of fear, hit, that it sounded like you identified fear more. And I'm in a state of being curious, because I just want to understand more about the effects of your thoughts dealing with, what's happening across the world, and how you worked through this, seeing that this started back in March and we're the 10th day in April now.
Yeah, great question. It's interesting that you brought up identification and identifying the different emotions. Maybe around 2 years ago, I did an NLP course. It lasted about 18 months. And one of the exercises that we did was we actually went through and identified, what people would call emotions, but in NLP it's called values, like different states of mind and being that a person could be in. However, fear actually never came up. It was more so just figuring out like where you were at somatically, like the words that we put on to these different things, and how we all identify them individually is super important. So what that class allowed me to do was actually go through and somatically see what happens. Emotions, feelings tend to show up physiologically. They can show up, and like I said, and as well as somatically. However, one of the things that which was so important to me about fear was me not sitting in it. And in this last course that I took, and I think it was connections course or great decisions course. Listen, people, if you're looking to take a course on like actually connecting with yourself first and with other people or whatever it is, Joe Hudson's connections course is probably one of the, and I don't give a lot of recommendations anymore, but this is something that I'm just like, it probably was, and I don't get paid for this. Probably one of the best courses that I ever took, and for the pricing of it, right? And I hate that, but people care more about money than anything. But I think it's either you can get it for 600 or 900 bucks, whatever it is. Do it, do it. The things that I learned in that is just breathtaking, and the people, the community is. I mean, it's even crazier the way that we have conversations within that community. Actually, like it's so because the brother mentioned curious. It's so the possibilities that come out of those conversations are unlike any other conversation I had in a lot of different groups and places and environments socially that I've been in. So if you ever get a chance, Joe Hudson's Connections course, and you're kind of thinking about, what does it look like to communicate both on the outside and within yourself, super, super dope thing to do. So part of the framework that you learn within the connections course is the view framework. It's actually the foundation of it. And the last part was like being in wonder. So when I mentioned fear or even terror, they're not to me, right? I think how the connotation when I'm in conversation with people, it would come out a certain kind of way, but it's not a negative thing, right? To me, in my experience. However, it was taught that way. So I'm socialized and I'm indoctrinated to believe that being scared or being fear is, in some parts, it's almost shameful as a man to be to even state it. Like, hey man, I'm scared. You know what I mean? Like from a young age, it was like you had to be this. You had to present a certain kind of way, especially in the culture. So I learned at an early age, like you just kind of and which is true. You see the fear and you can do it anyways. But for me to actually sit in it, not to do anything, not to I identify it just because I'm having this conversation with you, but it was more so about figuring out how do I not to manage it, right? Because for me, when I identify something, it'll automatically go into management of a thing, and which is I think there's just different stages of it, but to actually to be able to sit into it and to allow these things to flow, because it's just what I'm putting on it, right? Like whatever, like whenever this may have happened, this could have happened when I was 3 or 4. Something happened when I was 3 or 4. It caused me to feel a certain kind of way. I was uncomfortable with that feeling, and then I would, from that point on, I identified it as this thing. So now I'm at the point where I'm just allowing a lot of these things just to flow with me. But in order for them to flow through me, it's actual sitting in this thing, in this whatever it is, and not really thinking or doing much about it, because there's really nothing to do but just to hold space with oneself to say, man, this is what I'm feeling. What does it do? Like what is it about here? Just to get to your point, brother, to get curious and to get in wonder about it, right? So even within this fear and this what I terror, just to take it up a notch for me, intellectually, because that's what it is. That's what these words are. It's like this intellectual part of me, but to be able to take it up a notch so I can actually fully be in that whatever it is, this experience. And I mean, it was even throughout this week, and it's so dope to me that I can kind of track exactly where I am with those different feelings, or where I am as far as how I would have taken it. Because before it would have been this super deep dive into intellectually trying to figure this whole thing out, but just actually sit with it. Oh my gosh, I was so grateful for it. So to answer your question, it was like to be grateful that I'm able to experience what this feeling, this emotion, and to relate to it, and for it to resonate with me, and for me to be able to communicate it. Like that it led to such a breakthrough in the way that I'm just looking at things. And then also when I'm seeing other people that are having this same thing, it's so interesting because it also led to empathy with my in general with other people. I'm rereading the Chris Voss book, Never Split the Difference. And
Come
then there's
on,
another.
man. What's going on here? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, man. We are on the different levels that we are on. Go ahead, bro. I mean, I'm just talking. Wow, there's such a connection. Go ahead, man.
I'm not gonna, and we'll get into it, but I'm rereading the book, the Never Split the Difference. There's a couple things that could go along with it, for me specifically, which is dope, with for as far as real estate is concerned, which is the full fee agent. Real estate is not rocket science. The person who co-wrote those books is Steve Shull. And one of the things that he talks about, and even Chris Voss, because the foundation is that book, one of the things he talks about is the need for people to feel safe and autonomous. Like that's essentially the tactical empathy is is at the point is just to allow other people to feel safe and to have their freedom, autonomy. And if they're not safe, which most people aren't most of the time, we aren't most of the time, and we don't feel autonomous, what space does it take us to? So in my ability to quite understand that fear, because some people will look at me and say, okay, well, he's just out here doing things that I probably wouldn't do because I'm scared for X and O to happen or whatever it is. And they're just out here doing it. And it couldn't register to me why people couldn't do certain things, because I'm just like, are you going to die? Like what, like, where is this lack of safety coming from? So the sitting in the fear and the understanding of it also allowed me to be more empathetic to people that I'm in relation with.
By the way, I'm going through the Chris Voss book, Never Split the Difference, right now. Right now.
So we didn't plan this.
We didn't plan this. We didn't plan this. No. So I had this while you're discussing this thing about fear. I'm actually the crazy part about this doesn't align at all, but it does align just in the word fear, right? So this is just for you all out there, but also to share with my brother here. We're getting ready to put on this event in about a month from now. And one of the topics is fears, right? And it has specific meanings. It has to deal with finances. So they're not connected, but you all can understand how I'm just starting to put that thing together. The next part is this. I haven't been to the Joe Hudson workshop or learn this framework. However, bro, we have been discussing, and as we're opening this thing up, I'm like, this is exactly what's going on inside of my life, exactly what I've been doing for these last whatever amount of months. And especially since the time up there, I decided, okay, you know what, fire department, no more. I'm out of there. I'm going out. I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do, win, lose, or draw. And so in the middle of this, I found that the challenge was to be able to explain to somebody in whom I desired to explain, for whatever the cause or reason, I won't mention, doesn't matter at this point in time, what it is that I am experiencing. And for a person who doesn't understand what Mike, what you're talking about, to them, this thing is like, boom, like what on earth is this dude talking about, right? What is he talking about? When he talks about how he feels stressed, but he doesn't feel stressed. What is that? What is this paradox? Is this guy stuck in the Bermuda Triangle? Where is he? What does that mean? When this guy says that he's scared, but he's not scared, what exactly is that? That is me attempting to show somebody what I've come to understand is like presently taking place. However, the emotional connection to the words that I'm using is not there. And I didn't have another word to be able to inform another individual that this is what's going on. I have identified this. I've validated it. I am aware. This goes back to our A-frame, being aware, accepting, acknowledgement, right? I am 100% aware that these things are happening inside my life. I am aware that these are the emotions. I am aware that these are the clues, and I am okay. I'm good. Because the emotional piece of it has been separated. So I'm like sitting up in a chair over all of these different types of feelings and emotions. And I'm just like, okay, I recognize it. Yep, that's it. And at that point, it's just like, just let it be. Like it is what it is. I don't need to do anything with it. There's nothing to do with it. There's nothing to do with it. I've taken the time to identify it. I've taken the time to learn more about it. Right? I've used my judgment to learn what's going on, this internal piece that's happening. And so when you start talking about this, man, it's like you're no longer reactive. And these are lessons that I share with my son, you know, who's sitting across from me at the table, that I know you're sharing with your son. But it's like, and don't get me wrong, to all the women out there, I'm about to say something that may sound, you know, chauvinistic. But as a man, this is something that I'm teaching my son. It's like, simply because the thing happened and the initial impact of the thing happening hurt does not mean that we have to react. Let it flow. Take it in. Feel it. Understand it. Acknowledge it. Validate it. Investigate it. And when you do respond because it's intentional, because this is the thing that you wanted to do, not because this is the thing that you were made to do through a reaction, through an instinct. We're not animals. We don't have to instinctually do something. It doesn't have to be that way. So like that process, you don't have to escape the feeling. You can actually, I love, you use the word sit with it, the phrase sit with it. You can actually allow that thing. And see, here is the power of sitting with something, is when you sit with it, when you rise, you can take ownership over it. It doesn't have to own you. You don't have to rise with a monkey on your back. You can rise with the monkey in your hand on a leash, trained to do whatever it is that you desire the monkey to do. Or you could free the monkey Let it go back the way it came. But it's your choice and possibly even your decision from that point. So when I hear what you're saying, that's why I like to just take the time to just take everything in what you're saying, because you're not talking about fear, oh, wow, shudder, run, hide. You ain't talking about that. You're talking about fear. Okay. Terror. Not, no, it's terror. Woo! Shivers. Okay. Let me ponder that. Let me think about that. Oh, I see all of these things. Okay. How do I move? Which way do I go? What do I want to do? Maybe I do nothing, but it's my decision. I love this thing. I love it. I love it. And granted, this isn't me attempting to fill in the blanks for you, Mike, or trying to, this is my perspective of just how I see what you're saying and how I see what the things that I'm going through and that I'm feeling and that I'm recognizing and that I'm validating and like that I'm living and how I'm moving through this world and how the world or how these different things are flowing through me. And so I embrace this thing. So yes.
Shouts out to Tara. Tara, what's going on? Yeah. It's interesting because we do have these young men, well, young men and a boy. He said, I'm a big boy. He said, you have my hair. He just got a haircut. He said, you got my hair. I look like a little kid. I'm not a little kid. And I spoke about this last week in regards to what I'm doing with him now. And a lot of it is not managing his outbursts. You know what I mean? Not managing. However, to your point, like having him identify what he's going through, because he can already call these things out as far as emotions are concerned. I'm angry. He'll say, I'm angry and throwing a fit. And then for me to say, oh, what does that feel like? What exactly is going on when you're angry? Oh, okay. So when you're angry, you like to pout. Is that something that you like? Do you want to do that? Or is it, where's this reaction? Where's this reaction coming from? So the conversations that we're having with these young men at this age are so powerful, because we're at a stage where it's so dope that we notice and we have the awareness of these things. And then I'll speak to myself, because I'm always putting Paul out there like he's the one having the attitude or something. But he decided that he was gonna throw a fit when we went to Publix last week. It's like Saturday. And we got out the car and we were walking up to Publix, and he started to throw his fit because he wanted something. He's like, I want it. And he was going at it, and he started kicking and all that. And I'm telling you, I know you mentioned that we're not instinctual, but I think there's just different layers of human beings. And so there's a primitive part to us. There's like a something that is instinctual, that's just natural to us, and that's, to me, that's where the fear comes from. Like this innate fear where you have to kind of run or fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever it is. And I noticed something coming up with me when he was having his fit, because now it's in public. So now there's like, oh, there's a thing of embarrassment, shame, so to speak. And so I would even go use that for me, as far as that also being like a fear of being seen a certain kind of way. Because in my mind, there's a creation of identity, and I kind of wanted to go into that. of where this fear of being, essentially it's really just fear of being vulnerable, right? Like being able to be seen in a not so perfect way. As far as his father out here, his son is throwing a fit. What does that say about me? Like, attempting to caretake how people see me and feel me. And when that arose in me, as far as that was coming up, I said, what? Because and I know, and Elijah, I apologize because I probably wasn't this way as he was growing up. So I'm apologize to Elijah for it. But this identity popped up of this is what fatherhood is supposed to be like, and I'm not, quote unquote, doing it right. And I'm also reading The Untethered Soul. And I'm like, who's not doing it right? Who said that? Because this is all going on in my mind while Paul is having his outburst. And I grabbed him. I said, okay, listen, right? Because we spoke last week about boundaries. And I said, let's go back to the car because you're getting to a point where you're going to hurt yourself, right? And then I also told him, I said, and I'm feeling something come up for me as well. I said, so let's go back to this car. Let's sit down and let's just like engage this thing. So now this is me like sitting with Paul and that, because he's not only having an outburst, but I'm having my own internal outburst because of this fear of whatever was coming up, right? Principle, check my temperature before I engage the conversation that he and I are going to have about this outburst that he's having. Like, listen, and as a father, being the older one, I need to be able to hold him in this place. Like, I need to be able to hold him and show him that, hey, listen, it is okay to be vulnerable. I'm going to also tell you that there's certain ways that people may tend to look at you, but how you, and this may start to dictate how you show yourself, right? So ultimately, this is not about them either, but this is about you. I want to make sure that I'm not trying to force you to do things that I want you to do because of this fear that comes up. So I was thinking about that fear, and I digress. I'm gonna get back into this conversation because I'm just showing you how this comes up. Like, it's just that simple. I'm not perfect by all means, as a father, as a man, as a whatever it is. I have my things. I'm 43 years old. I've experienced it enough to where I've started to do it. I'm noticing it now, which at times it could be frustrating, but I'm okay with that. That's a question you ask yourself. Are you okay with you? Right. And I'm okay with me. That's why I'm okay with sharing this. And so I started looking at, well, what kinds of things come up with fear? Because I did that really quickly for a lot of us, to where it was just like, oh, fear came up. Embarrassment came up. There was shame attached to it. Well, what is the shame covering? The shame is covering me not looking perfect. There's a fear of having people see me and who I really am, this mask that's possibly there. Like, all these things are happening at this time and place. And I've done the work to where, like, I can kind of like shoot through these things. But if for those of us that don't necessarily know or can feel it, like some of the things that pop up when you're not necessarily expressing or being able to sit with fear, some things that come up is like projection. You start to project this into other people. Something else that may come up is that you start to be defensive, because in that case, I may be attempting to defend my identity. Like, the projection is real simple, because I'm projecting onto Paul what I don't think he should be doing or what he should be doing. I could easily start to defend. Oh, this is defend up my position or identity within this entire thing. And so this comes up from the suppression of a thing, right? Suppression of not feeling or actually holding this space within yourself. And it's expressed in these different kind of ways, as opposed to when you hold it, you kind of transmute this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because what happened is that when I went back, and I'm not suppressing it, right? Like, but suppressing this outburst within myself. and I'm not necessarily expressing it by projecting or defending it. I actually get to transmute it, and what comes out of it is like this, man, the conversation, even at a 5-year-old, the conversation that he and I have became so beautiful in that car for the next 3 to 5 minutes. It was like, listen, I know you're having this outburst and you're allowed to have it all. But when you're ready, like we can get into this if you'd like, right? The conversation I had with myself was, once this outburst is done, like you all are, like, he's not even going to remember it. Like Paul's not going to remember it. The people aren't going to remember it. If you react in a certain kind of way, you're definitely going to remember it. If you respond in love with him in this time, think about the kind of bond that this is going to create between you and Paul, which at this point in time is like the most important thing. The bond, besides myself, is the bond with my child. So 3 to 5 minutes goes by. Me and him have the conversation about, hey, listen, you can't have these things all the time. We're going in here. We're going to grab some food. We're going to come back out. Meanwhile, Elijah's in there just buying everything, buying everything it is that he wants. And when I get in there, he's putting more things in my cart. But it's like allowing that to happen, not having Elijah embarrass Paul and make Paul feel a certain kind of way, or even Elijah looking at me differently, like, oh, you know, sometimes they'll say, I've seen, it's like, oh, you're not that way. You know what I mean? Like you put on a certain kind of way, but you're really not that way, right? I don't think there's anything more hurtful to me is when people that I know and love are telling me like, hey, you're abandoning yourself. Like you're not in alignment with what you say. Like you're a hypocrite, right? Like for my kids to tell me that I'm a hypocrite in some kind of way, like that's one of the things that I'm just like, well, what's that about, right? Like, am I not, where at what point am I abandoning myself? Because the people who you are in connection with, especially relationally, like they get to see you. You know what I mean? Like they know, they get to see you. And if you are out of alignment because somebody comes around, because here's one, the report card comes and it doesn't say what it wants it to say, the teacher calls and you pretend to be a certain kind of way and this, whatever it is, like when you go, like the way that they look at me. And that's one of the things I'm just like, I don't want my kids to feel that way. And I don't want to feel that way. Because if I am reacting or doing a certain kind of thing outside that is not necessarily who I am, then that means that I'm abandoning who I am. I'm projecting something. I'm defending an identity that's not probably mine to begin with. It's not the whole Mike. So, I know that was a lot within the context of this conversation, but I'm just explaining, going back to the title is like, what fear is actually doing, right? And it's not a bad, and it could be doing any of these things. Like we get a chance to decide and make the choice of it. But it's like, you really got to see and understand the pattern. And the way that you see and understand the pattern is by actually being in the pattern and holding yourself in a certain kind of way.
Man, I like that. I like that entire explanation. I appreciate you sharing it, because these are some of those tough moments. You're grooming Paul, and it's like in the middle of these scenarios. This is like real life. It's real life. Every single thing that we read or we study and we put inside of our mind, like, I love that, I'm gonna do that. It's all kind of like theory until it's tested. It's got to be tried by fire. And so hearing this testimonial of you putting the work to good use, I call it good use. It's very impactful. And then hearing about your thought process in throughout the entire incident is just, I'm grateful, because I believe that it's going to impact Paul in a great way. And I feel like I feel like because we've had these different types of conversations and we've had these opportunities with our youth, our children, that it just adds to a few things: the dynamic of our family, the dynamics of our relationships with our children, the dynamics of our relationships with ourselves, the dynamics of our relationships with the information that we're absorbing, that we're taking in. And there's probably some more relationships that I could mention. But the reason is because what good is higher learning if it's not used? What good is it? So you know something. Great. There's people across the world that know something. So you're a genius. Great. There's other geniuses, some of which people will never know. But if you can show me how what you know is improving the quality of life for yourself, for those that are around you, in my mind, in my heart, you deserve applause. Because what good is what we know is not being used. And it doesn't have to be used in the sense of I'm using that with my son. Maybe it's used in the sense of I'm a teacher and I'm sharing it with someone. Not putting any bars on how it should be used. I just love it when something that is so beneficial to somebody else is being used, and when somebody shares the secret sauce. And the secret sauce to me is it's all the ingredients. It's the details, because details matter. It's like sometimes we hear these stories from people and all we know is that, these years ago they were broken and these years now they are fixed and they're doing all these things. And people attempt to look at that and cater their life around it. And they feel it's like Swiss cheese. It's just full of holes because they don't understand the details. They don't understand. I'm going to put it this way. They don't understand the struggle that somebody went through in order to, I'm going to use this word too, perfect their craft. They don't understand that. Like if you want to master whatever it is that you're doing, you have to sometimes struggle through it before you get a grip on how to move through it, before you get a sense of how to flow through it. It's like there's processes to everything. It can be a short process. It can be a long one. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like, I think acknowledging it is important. And so I love this conversation. I love this conversation because in essence, it's not all about quote unquote fear from the standpoint of, it's the horror movie and I'm being chased. It's not even about that. It's not about that. It's like we're taking this word fear and it's like we're assigning it a definition. And in this episode, it's like we are affording other people to see it from a different perspective. And to me, that's valuable. That's valuable. You don't have to fear fear. That you don't have to fear fear. Not when you phrase it the way that our discussion has been going. You can actually invite it. Come sit at the table. I got some questions for you. Whew. I've been dealing with you for years. You've wrecked my life in times past, but I want you to understand You have no power over me. So tell me something. What really are you? Who really are you? Where do you really come from? What are you really doing in my life? What are you stirring up? Come on, come talk with me. When I was young, I did things like a youth, but I'm much older now. Learned some things, acknowledge some things, see things differently.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. I love it. That getting curious with the fear is definitely something that I think that's a great takeaway. People like when it comes up, you can actually start to ask the questions, not to necessarily get rid of it, right? But to truly be in wonder of like what's this about? And just from my own experience, like you can start laughing about some of this stuff. Like you can laugh about it. You like, wow, I was dreading this phone call for, you know what I mean? Or I was feeling this way about such and such. And man, that was funny. That was, man, almost 30 days you had me gripped on something. You know what I mean? And I can really get into it. And the faster you start to notice and do those things, really faster, but when you start to notice and do those things, you'll start to see how like when it's in the dark, it just makes it so much bigger. like it becomes this huge thing. But when you put it out there, and then the brother mentioned struggle, some of the dopest conversations, some of the strongest relationships that I've dealt with came out of some kind of what a person would call struggle. Is because when you can deal and do the hard things or the things that you fear, the questions that you're asking, I'll leave it this will be my last thing. It's like in real estate. And so I do a with whoever it is, I'll do a initial consultation, right? Takes me about 10 to 15 minutes. Some people like to talk, so I'll put it up for, it'll be longer. We but because people like to talk. There's a lot that when you talk about high stakes negotiations, there's almost nothing in compared to real estate, right? Unless if you haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference, this is the FBI negotiator, hostage negotiator. So yeah, when life is involved, I'm not talking about that, right? Because there's a lot of fear, I would imagine, that's involved, or nerves and all kinds of things come up during those type of negotiations. But housing and having to do something. So anyways, it'll take me 15 to 20 minutes off times because you kind of figure a lot of these things out. There's certain questions and certain things that need to be established while you're having a mutual relationship that's going to be that's of this magnitude, okay? And if you don't ask these questions and get to a clear understanding from both sides about it, it's going to be it could be a tumultuous journey. Maybe not necessarily for the client, right? Especially if you're really good at caretaking people. You know what I mean? If there's a lot of agents who are people pleasers, so their client doesn't even know what's going on except for when, some of the big things happen, whether they're putting in an offer, whether they're doing an inspection when the inspection comes back, and of course at the closing table and the final walkthrough, like this, or title, and when certain big things come up. But ultimately, most clients, they're just like, it's almost like a waiting game. So if you give them those expectations, they'll understand that. But for that agent, especially if they're caretakers, it's almost like a nail biter throughout this entire transaction. This is why agents, like they're out fast, because you can emotionally get burnt out, real quick,
Mm.
especially if you're a people pleaser and you want to accommodate people and you want to caretake and you really care. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially that's what it is. This is you being a careful place. So I noticed that, and I noticed this within the industry. So that first initial consultation is super important. So the questions that you ask just in preparation, if you can get these things out of the way up front, the transaction can even be an even better transaction for both parties, right? When you start talking about your commission rate, if you state that and you have a standard up front, like we're not trying to guess when it's time to write out a contract and the other side wants to negotiate and they come back with something, you already understand exactly where both of you guys stand, and there's no conversation about it. This is what it is. When you allow them to sign an agreement up front, whether it's a listing or whether it's buyers or people who work with renters, whatever, when you already have an agreement that's saying, listen, this is the agreement that we have. This is what protects you. This is what protects me. Like when you go into these things with already having the expectations and the standards laid out for each and every one of you, like this is what is going to happen. You can, and then you figure out like if you're what Chris Voss calls the favorite or the fool. When you figure out whether you're the favorite or the fool, I mean, what's going to happen is you're going to filter a lot of people that you probably shouldn't even be working with. Right? Like you're not going to be covering all kinds of grounds. Like I'm looking right now. I got a referral coming in, like right before we came in, a friend of an agent up in Orlando, and he asked me. He said, do you work with buyers in the West Palm Beach area? I said, absolutely. That's where I'm from. Right? He knows it. That's why he's reaching out to me. And he says, great. I have a client. And then we'll do like a referral fee, which is a standard, right? And then and so he gave it to me, and I'm joking with him, and I said it depends. Are they assholes? Because I don't work with them. You know what I mean? So I'm telling you up front, if this is a difficult client, and then we'll have a conversation about it. Okay, tell me a little bit about a client or whatever, and we'll have an initial consultation. But I need like up front, like this is one of my standards. I don't work with assholes. I don't work with people that don't trust me, don't even want to get to that point, and they already have something already in their minds. Like I understand that part. I understand we will have the conversation, but this is what this initial consultation is about. Now imagine if I don't have this, and then we're just going through this entire process, which I've done before. And then you just take anybody. You don't have these hard conversations up front. At some point in time within that transaction, after everyone's used their emotional and mental energy, all their resources, these things are going to come up. So why not get it out up front? Why, as opposed to making it this huge thing, right? I may be in a way of fear of making this phone call because I don't want to hear what it is they have to say. So now I have to work myself up in order to have the conversation. And then when they get the information, how they're going to think about me. Remember, I spoke initially about the safety and autonomy. This is what most people are dealing with. So how safe are they going to feel with me, who's supposed to be their trusted advisor? And at this point when we're having this huge conversation, I'm telling them that there's only two ways. Like there's only two ways we can deal with this. Nobody wants to hear there's only two ways that we want to do. You come to me and say there's only two ways, Mike, of us handling something. I'm gonna be like, wait a minute. And it's of this magnitude. I might not even want to do it anymore. There's no safety in the rigidity of a thing. But if I'm already understanding what it is to expect, and I'm in agreement with it at the beginning, the standards of it, then these conversations just come off as, okay, well, oftentimes in my experience is like, well, Mike, what do you think? I'm with you. What is it that you think? I just had a conversation with a client before I got on here as well. And she was like, well, Mike, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, this is your decision. I'm not going to take it from you, but here are your options. How do you feel about those? And if not, then we can get curious about it. Most people don't get curious when they're in fear, but to the brother's point, getting curious and fear having these conversations up front, not making this thing turn into this big thing. And it will turn into a big thing if you don't sit with it. If you're suppressing it, or you're just moving in a certain kind of way, like it always comes back to bite you.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I like that. I think those are some good takeaways, learning how to, and I think that, the sitting with something is basically learning what it is that you're actually dealing with. Let's not guess at stuff. Let's not just emotionally react to things. Let's not guess. Yeah. So, and I like that, especially dealing with relationships. I found that what you're talking about is so true. Dealing with it, but taking that time to really sit with something and to, understand where you are inside of that, and being able to allow for the emotional impact, to pass through you, so that you can approach things with clarity. It's just really big, because I believe at the end of that, you're no longer dealing with fear anymore. It's not fear. Maybe it started off as fear, but it doesn't have to be fear when you open your mouth up. And maybe there's something else that's there, but it doesn't have to be fear when you open your mouth up. I'm especially talking about some challenging conversations that people are having with their significant others, or, especially with significant others, or maybe children, whatever, because you can react to something and blow something up, and it takes years and years and years before you ever get it right.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. You can respond. And what I say is the best way that you can do. All right. I'm not going to put I'm not going to make this not the 10 commandments of words. You can respond in what I believe may be the best response that an individual could do at that very moment. And there's an opportunity for it still not to sit well on the other person. You've done all you could do. All right. Go in peace. Go in peace. Be in peace with yourself. If you're able to sit with that thing and you can get in peace with yourself, 9 times out of 10, whatever happens in the next few moments, it's not on you. You're giving it your very, very best. And maybe they may just need a cup of tea. Time, energy, effort. Maybe that's what they need. I'm not telling you to go offer it to them, but maybe that's what they need. So that's my final words on this, on what fear is actually doing. I appreciate this conversation, bro.
Yeah, likewise, bro. This was good, man. This is good. Hey guys, never split the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same book, same time.
Yeah, never split the difference. Awesome book. It's even better when you're in a dope state of being, right? Because it is strategies and tactics, but it's an awesome book just to understand the whole tactical empathy. So if you haven't picked that book up, it's an awesome read, awesome to go through, learn some things, probably go on YouTube, go check out Chris Voss. Yeah, man, good stuff, man. And I guess we'll see you next week. Peace.